Hi, everyone. Welcome to MEDENT Minutes, the podcast that explores EHR optimization and how practices can excel in value based care. I'm Megan Chapman, the Director of Marketing and Communications here at MEDENT, and today I am joined by Melissa Lashyn from TUA and my colleague Sarah Riester from MEDENT. Thank you both for joining me today. I know we're going to be talking a little bit about a relatively new feature that MEDENT is offering called DelayPay. And I'm going to start with Melissa here. So, Melissa, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and TUA?
Certainly, it's certainly a pleasure to be here, Megan, and join everyone here. So, introduction of myself: I am Melissa Lashyn. I've been with TUA now for about 4 years, and yes, I work as a chief operating officer here, and I guess to tell you a bit about TUA. TUA is a patient financing platform. We have the incredible privilege of working with MEDENT and Global Payments, and I know we'll get into that. So I'll wrap that up for my intro.
Okay, great. And yeah, so Sarah, can you tell us a little bit about, our partnership with Global Payments Integrated and just kind of how all of us tie together before we dive into delay pay?
Absolutely. So we've had the partnership with Global Payments for several years now. It's an integrated credit card payment option. So it allows the office to process credit card payments all from within MEDENT. The transaction itself is going to be processed through Global Payments, which is PCI compliant, but all the workflow is done from within MEDENT. So it makes a very seamless and efficient way for your staff to take payments. It also offers a variety of online payment options, like allowing the patient to pay from their patient portal, from your practice website, and also text to pay, which is a really wonderful feature. And that's where delay pay gets tied into today's conversation. So text to pay allows the office to text or email the patient their patient statement. And with that statement is also a link for them to pay. So not only are these features that the offices love, patients love them as well. We hear from a lot of our offices that patients are asking them for these things. And thanks to the Global Payments integration, we've been able to easily offer them to our clients and to their patient populations. So going back to text to pay, the relationship between Global Payments and TUA Pay allows us to offer a delay pay option through our text to pay feature. So if a patient has a large statement balance that they might not be able to pay the full amount up front, they will have the option to develop a payment plan with TUA Pay. The office will get their payment up front, and then the patient will work with TUA Pay on that payment plan. But we will definitely get into those details. But the Global Payments partnership has been wonderful. And then now bringing on TUA Pay to offer even more features is just adding more and more benefit to the integration.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Melissa, turning back to you, could you, talk a little bit about, delay pay and just give me some examples of when this would be useful, specifically for medical practices and their patients?
Absolutely, for sure. Great question. And I can also piggyback on what Sarah said as well. So certainly we have wonderful partnership with both Global Payments and MEDENT, and it's certainly something I'll get into the examples as well of how people use us. But it's essentially I mean, as Sarah said, this is something that the market is really appreciating right now, offering those flexible payments. I know that the services that are offered by MEDENT offices and MEDENT partners are obviously the services. There's obviously a wider range of the medical services, and so the ones we see some very strong use cases for are specifically in the elective medical space, and really anybody that has a larger transaction amount and that just appreciates breaking the payment into monthly payments over time. We offer 0% options for patients. So essentially it really is no additional cost to them. They essentially just get to spread that payment over a longer period instead of the upfront cost. So obviously making it a more palpable cost while they still get the essential services that they need. So I guess those are some of the best use cases. Number one, elective medical. I mean, medical spas. We have great partnerships with hearing aid companies. Really appreciate splitting up the cost there. But then, I mean, I'll say it in a general sense. When there are those larger payment amounts, it's nicer to break it up. And then even I'll say this is a bit general, but even when it's the large, when it's really any amount, I'm offering it as a credit, debit, and then a to a pay option really encompasses all of the payment options now for a patient. So I can give very specific examples, but I'll speak to that in general terms, that we're seeing usage in a variety of different offices and a variety of different healthcare avenues.
Sure. And, folks who are listening might be wondering, why DelayPay? I'm sure there are other, competitors, who offer, similar services. So why DelayPay with TUA and Global Payments?
Oh, great question. Thank you. So DelayPay is I'll begin with this great partnership with Global Payments, with MEDENT. The integration is a huge selling feature. It really is the easiest experience for your employees as well as the patients, because there's no extra steps. It essentially shows up as a payment option in that text to pay feature. And so it is presented with their debit, with their credit card option, and now there will be a DelayPay option. So that is the biggest feature, because again, what we can do to make it easier for employees is always a win, and then also easier for patients, which our main competitors, obviously, it's an added step in a different system. This is completely integrated in as well. When the transaction is completed, it also shows up in the same format that a credit card would. The integration is quite seamless in that way. So that's a large feature, because again, it is the easiest experience for the patient and for the employees. Next, we do have incredibly fair rates. We pride ourselves on that. We both on the patient side and the merchant side, we obviously give our global preferred rates to all MEDENT offices. And then also on top of that, we have rates as low as 0% for patients. There's some companies that some competitors, the rates can fluctuate. Our rates never change. And they can pay it off anytime. We see some patients that open up, take a payment plan, and then a month or two later they pay it off, and with no obviously additional fees or any additional negative features. They're just able to pay it off. So I guess fair rates, transparency are the two things, and then of course we manage all the risk. So some folks have in-house financing options. We take that risk away from them, and if there's any risk of missed payment, that's on us and not on the medical offices. So I would say those three are key features.
Yeah, and there's no real hassle either of having to manage those payments, right? So the practice would get that full payment up front, and TUA is kind of taking on the management and the risk, like you said.
Yeah, that's a great point, Sarah. Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about how it works as far as, the text to pay is a requirement. Am I right about that, Sarah?
Correct. Yep. So you have to be set up with the Global Payments integration, and then also set up with text to pay as well. Now, there's no additional charge to use text to pay. In fact, the practice may even notice cost savings by signing up and using that feature, because a patient that receives a statement via text or email and no longer receives a paper statement, there will be a reduced rate for that statement. So just by going with text to pay in general, you might notice cost savings within your practice. And then it opens up the opportunity to use additional features like this DelayPay.
Right. And can you tell me a little bit? I'm going to start with, I would like to start with, I think, Melissa here. Talk about the process from the patient perspective. So, what does that process look like to use DelayPay?
Yeah, absolutely. So the process, I'll start even before the appointment. We do have a unique link for a pre-qualification feature. So every office, every location gets their own unique pre-qualification link. And so this really helps on twofold. Number one, it helps patients feel at ease that that obviously payment the cost will not be a factor for what the services they might be looking at receiving. So you're welcome to put that on your website or in your appointment reminder notifications, a link to DelayPay to a pay to understand or to help patients get pre-qualified. And the nice thing is because it is a unique link to the office, we actually email the office letting them know that this patient was pre-qualified. And then the next step after that is obviously in the invoice experience. We'll jump to that. It is sent via text to pay, as Sarah outlined, and then right there in the invoice, it has the option for credit card, debit card, and then the option for to a pay. So they simply select that option. They fill out really one screen of information. Normally it takes no more than 3 minutes. They click apply, and within less than seconds, options for different payment plans show up, and it varies obviously from a few months to 3 years, depending on what payment flexibility they're looking for, and they can choose the option that fits their budget the best. And they simply select the option and agree to our terms of service, and they're a to a pay customer. And so that is the patient experience. And then after that, to a pay sends the funds to the office within 1 to 3 business days, and then we manage the ongoing payments.
Great. And then Sarah, I'm curious, could you talk a little bit about the workflow or process that happens, from the MEDENT perspective?
Yeah, so I'll talk about going back to text to pay as it is a requirement for the delay pay. Just like Melissa mentioned, how easy and efficient the patient experience is, your MEDENT users are going to have that same experience. Anytime we add integrations like this, and the benefit of the integration is that it fits so well into workflows and things that your staff are already doing. We don't want you to have to do any retraining or shifting of the way things are done. And that's exactly what you'll find with text to pay and with the delay pay. So text to pay is going to start with sending out your statements. Patients will be opted in to receive their statement via text or email, and they could also be opted out of receiving a paper statement. From there, the process for running and sending your statements from MEDENT remains exactly the same. When you prepare your statements, it's going to read directly from those settings that you have for those patient accounts. And after you transmit the statements, the text and email statements are going to go at that same exact time. So then from there, we lead into what Melissa spoke to about the patient experience. The patient would get the text or email with their statement. In there's going to be a link for them to click to pay. That link is specific to that patient. It shows their balance. They can pay the full amount with the credit card, or they have that nice delay pay option where they can go through and see the different payment plans. Now, whether they decide to pay the full amount with the credit card or they decide to do the delay pay, both payments are going to come into MEDENT in a receipt super bill. So the staff can view those super bills from Chart Central, from the daily billing summary. They can even set up a button at the bottom of Chart Central to manage the list, and those payments just need to be posted to the patient accounts. So again, the integration allows the user to work all from within MEDENT, and then if the patient chooses delay pay, the responsibility for the patients, any risk, that's all through to a pay.
Okay. And then, Melissa, I'm guessing there might be a few questions on, is insurance involved? Are there any monthly, or annual or setup fees? I'm just curious, about how that works.
Great questions. We'll start with the fee question. There's no fees unless it is used. So there's no setup fees, no annual fees, and no monthly fees. Just simply a transaction fee when the service is used and provides that value. And then insurance, we don't work with insurance companies. It's simply a payment made and an agreement with the patient. So no insurance. We don't work with insurance at this time, and with no plans to. So yeah, so no
Yeah.
fees, no additional fees, and simply a per use transaction fee. And
Yeah.
then
And I mean,
oh,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, and then I was going to say, and same with on the patient side, we simply have, I could talk about the patient fees as well. There's an interest rate on some products. Again, we do have our 0% options available, but there's an interest rate on some, and that's obviously very clearly outlined. And then I'll say, if everything is paid on time, then there's no additional fees also for the patient.
Great. Yeah. And, I think this is really a great feature to have. I'm sure a lot of people who are listening are familiar with these, payment plan options that come up when you're, purchasing via retail. Why not have this option available for medical expenses as well? I think it's I think it's great. I think patients would certainly appreciate the opportunity to split these larger payments up. I do want to ask, is there like a minimum payment, that has to be done in order, to use delay pay? Do we have a minimum payment?
The minimum amount, it is flexible. We have our standard minimum payment, but if offices require it to go lower, we certainly can. That is set at the office level. So our
Oh,
standard,
okay.
yeah, our standard is normally 500. I think we lowered it to $200 for MEDENT, but if it needs to be lowered, we can. It's certainly something that we can do at the office level.
Sure, there's some wiggle room there, so that's good to know.
Mhm.
And yeah, so as I understand it, patients would be offered. It's not just one plan. Sometimes they're offered, a few different options. Pay in 3 months or 6 months. Am I right when I talk about that?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Depending on the amount, obviously depending on their eligibility, they'll be offered a variety of plans that can fit their budget, and they'll get to choose which option fits best for them. And then again, I'll make the point that it's an open loan, so they're welcome to pay it off at any time with no penalties, which we do see, which is great.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Great. So is there anything I'm missing? Anything else you guys want to say before we wrap things up here?
I think another question that might come to mind for some of our offices is what does it look like if I just want to try this out? I don't want to, not sure how it's going to go. Is there the option to do some sort of trial? So I'll kind of
Mhm.
speak to the MEDENT side of that. For text to pay, you do have to get set up with the global payments integration, but there's a large variety and other reasons to get set up with the integration outside of delay pay. Delay pay adds amazing value, but just getting set up with the integration itself is a step in the right direction for your office. When it comes to text to pay, the setup for that is very simple. If you find that text to pay isn't working for your office, it's very easy to turn off. However, we've never had anyone do that. Once you get set up with that, you start offering it to your patients. It is definitely a win and something that you will stay with. Melissa, I don't know if you want to touch on what it would look like to, you know, try to a pay to see how that would work and what their options would be for that.
Absolutely. And same goes for us. Where really it's simply just 15 business days notice to turn off. It's easy to turn off, and you're not locked into any long-term contract. And we do have promotions at times with Global, where you can try it when you sign up, you can try it. For a bit of a discounted rate for the first few weeks. So again, trying to create the ability to exactly try it out, see how it works for your office. And I can echo the same thing with Sarah that said that once we offer the flexibility to turn it off at any point, and we have actually had no one turn it off with the Global Payments partnership. So it shows that people obviously find value once they turn it on. But yes,
Yeah,
no
I think it
obligation is
speaks for
cool.
itself. Yeah, for sure. I think patients, I know myself as a patient, I greatly appreciate having my statements, texted or emailed to me versus paper. I can't even remember the last time I got a paper statement. Um, I don't want them, to be honest with you. And it's a great, uh, as a patient, it's just a great feature to have something so simple to be able to make that payment, and then of course having that delay pay option for larger payments from a patient perspective, I think is fantastic. So I don't know. It seems there's no real risk to just give it a try. Um, and I know if you're interested in giving it a try, you can just submit an online support ticket with MEDENT. If you are interested in global payments and you need to switch, you can inquire about that. Or if you already have global payments and you're interested in delay pay, I do think that's probably the best way to get more information on this and get things set up. Um, yeah, well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Is there anything else I'm missing here on delay pay?
The only thing one more thing I'll add before we
Okay.
go. I always like to talk about what's on the roadmap and what's in store
Yes.
for the future of MEDENT and for the integration. So the global payments integration, even though, we've had it for a few years, the variety of options we've been able to offer our offices is amazing, and delay pay being the newest one. We currently have in development a way to send a payment request on demand, and that would also allow for delay pay. So the difference between the payment request on demand and the text to pay is that you could text or email the patient a request for an amount on the fly right from the eSuper bill. It doesn't have to be an amount already posted to their personal balance. So this would be helpful in situations where you have to collect a down payment for a procedure or some sort of payment upfront before you can schedule. And that also benefits the patient with the delay pay, and that they will be able to provide the payment upfront through the delay pay and then handle the actual payment through to pay through those different payment plans. So definitely new and exciting stuff coming down the pipeline. Not only through the Global Payments integration, but through the partnership with Pay. We just keep adding more features, which means more value for not only your office, but for your patients.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, this has been an amazing partnership, with Global Payments, and we're so glad that Tua is on board now as well. So, yeah, Melissa, we're so glad we got to talk to you a little bit about this, and yeah, hopefully we get some practices reaching out and offering this for their patients. I think it's kind of a no-brainer here. Why you would want to do that. So.
Well, it's certainly a pleasure to speak with you, and I look forward to partnering with all the offices. We have a great relationship with our merchants, and certainly look forward to partnering with more MEDENT locations.
Yeah, absolutely. Very exciting stuff. So thanks again for joining us, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.